Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal, joining you on Thursday. We are edging towards the weekend now, just a couple of days away until Arsenal versus Brentford. What a huge game at the Emirates. Arsenal looking to bounce back from that defeat at Everton last weekend. They're playing ahead of Manchester City this weekend again. Could move 8 points clear of City with a win ahead of City's game against Aston Villa. Can Unai Emery do Arsenal a favour in that one? I will talk about that Brentford game a little bit later on in this video. We'll look at a couple other things as well. Zinchenko getting Player of the Month, which I think is richly deserved. But we'll start with the news I reported yesterday. If you haven't seen it yet, on Gabriel Jesus, he is now back at Arsenal as he steps up his recovery ahead of his return to fitness. Now, Jesus spent quite a bit of time at Arsenal at the beginning of January, was here working with a medical team, was at the United game, which I can't remember, it was the 20th or something like that, January. Then he jetted off. He's been overseas, been doing a lot of rehab overseas for the last couple of weeks, and now he's come back to London Colney. He arrived, my understanding, on Tuesday, so he's been here a couple of days now, and this is the point where he's really stepping up his recovery. He's going to be working alongside the medical team now, sort of carefully mapped out routine to get him back working up, trying to get him back out on the pitch. Now, I don't think he's like imminently expected to return by any means, but this is still good news for Arsenal, that at the moment everything's on track in terms of his recovery and should be back. I'm not going to put a date on it because it's just impossible to, but they've been working towards getting him back at some point next month, and that is still on track. Now, this is the really sort of key stage of his recovery because they've done a lot of the work. He's had his rest. Now it's about strengthening that knee and getting it strong enough, conditioning it well enough for him to start really sort of picking up the minutes he can get out on the pitch in terms of doing some ball work and that sort of thing. And then, of course, the next phase after that is actually getting him involved in training with the rest of the players. We're not at that stage yet by any means. He is out on the pitch again. He's wearing boots. He's doing a little bit of ball work, sort of light stuff. But at the moment, the focus is still on strengthening that knee to make sure when they do start really stepping up what he can do out on the pitch, initially on his own and with the fitness coaches, but then with the team, that there are no breakdowns, because that's the key thing now. Because look, Gabriel Jesus can still play a very, very big part in this season for Arsenal. Even if he does come back, if we have to wait another 4 or 5 weeks before he is back, at least then he's still got a lot of games in Europa League and the Premier League to make his mark. Still a good couple of months over the crucial run-in for the season to have Gabriel Jesus fit. If something happens now, you have any sort of setback now, you rush him back a little bit too soon now, then you're staring at him being out for the season, and nobody wants that. You all want Jesus back to be able to play a part over the crucial run-in. That's why this is such a key period. It's all about making sure he is strong enough, making sure that knee is ready to really start loading it up in terms of exactly what he's doing on the training pitch. And we've seen how much Arsenal have missed Jesus. Nketiah's been great. He's done so well. He's stepped up. I'm so happy for Eddie Nketiah for what he's done since Jesus has got injured, and for a lot of the doubters that he's silenced. He's shown again, as he did towards the end of last season, that he can be more than competitive at this level, that he can score goals at this level. But there's no doubt that Arsenal missed Gabriel Jesus. I thought the Everton game at the weekend was a prime example of that. That's the sort of game when there's absolutely just barely any space. The team's just camped out in the penalty box, really giant defenders against Nketiah. You know, it's just wasn't really his game. You needed a player there who could just have a little bit more sort of all-rounded forward game, who could drop deep, could pull defenders out of position, create a little bit of space for the runners to come in. But, you know, that's just not Eddie's game. He's a penalty box finisher. He's got miles better at the rest of the other stuff as well, and he deserves an awful lot of credit for that. But he's obviously no Gabriel Jesus, and Jesus can do that so well. He can just, his movement, non-stop fluidity across the attacking positions just causes defenders so much problems because it pulls them out of position. The centre-backs don't know whether to stay or to go, and in that little bit of indecision, Saka, Martinelli, someone can get into the space that's being created. And that's what Jesus was so good at during the first half of the season. Even though he wasn't scoring that many goals, he was just creating so many problems for defensive with his all-round game. And I thought the Everton game of the weekend was the one that's been most evident. Him not being there, I thought that was the most evident one, and they could have really done with him in that game. So getting him fit now, making sure he's ready, making sure there's no real chance of a setback is so crucial. So this is a really important time. He's back at Colney, and now it's about really building up that knee to make sure that he is ready to join in with the squad when the medical staff deem it's necessary. So fingers crossed, but definitely positive news on Gabriel Jesus. Great to see him back. Great to see him back at Colney, doing his stuff, and hopefully we'll see him back with the squad relatively soon. Okay, so Brentford, obviously there's not going to be any Gabriel Jesus for that one. It will be Eddie Nketiah leading the line again against Brentford. Going to be a tough game. Brentford arriving at Arsenal at the weekend as probably one of the most informed team in the Premier League. They've certainly got the longest unbeaten run in the Premier League at the moment. That stretches to 9 games. They've only conceded 1 goal in their last 5 games in the league. They are going to be full of confidence, full of belief, and they are going to be a very, very difficult opponent for Arsenal on Saturday. But it is a huge match. Given that defeat at Everton, Arsenal have to bounce back. They need to go into that big game against Manchester City on Wednesday night on the back of a win. You don't want to go into it on the back of another defeat or even a draw, because that suddenly makes it 3 games without a win in all competition. Arsenal have to get back to it. Tottenham did in a big favour last Sunday when they beat Manchester City. Arsenal need to take advantage of that now and get over the line against Brentford. I'm expecting a really good atmosphere on Saturday. The fans are going to be up for it. Arsenal are going to be up for it. They had a fantastic win against Brentford earlier on the season, one of their best performances of the season in terms of dominating a game for pretty much 90 minutes away at a very, very difficult ground. It was a fantastic result. And it'd be brilliant if Arsenal could repeat that this weekend. I'm not sure it's going to be as simple as that, because, as I said, Brentford are going to come here and they are going to fancy their chances. They've already won at the Etihad this season, 9 unbeaten. They don't concede many goals. Arsenal are going to have to be at their very best. They're going to have to be an awful lot better than they were at Everton if they are going to get the result against Brentford at the weekend. Personally, I think this is a game that we might well see Leandro Trossard. I think you brought Trossard in to be able to rest the likes of Martinelli or Saka if needs be. And just the last few games, it kind of feels like Gabby might need a little bit of a breather. Have him on the bench, bring him on as an impact substitute in the second half. Even make sure that he's well rested in times to bring him back into the starting 11 against Manchester City on Wednesday night. This one just feels like Trossard, who's been very bright every single time he's played so far for Arsenal, just feels like this could be a good opportunity for him to get his first Premier League start. I thought he was good when he came on against Everton. Not brilliant by any means, but it was a very tricky situation to come on with, given the way that game was going. But I still thought he looked pretty bright and looked like he might be able to make something happen. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Trossard. I don't think there's going to be wholesale changes by any means, even with that game against Man City on Wednesday night. Maybe a couple. I spoke about it in a video earlier on this week that we could well see Ben White given a bit of a rest. He, kind of like Martinelli, or in fact probably more so than Martinelli, has really struggled the last couple of games. He's been so consistent this season, Ben White. Barely put a foot wrong, but against United and against Everton, he just wasn't quite on it. Perhaps he's a bit tired. Just a little bit of a dip in form, dip in confidence. It happens over a course of a long season. That's why you need a squad. And in Tomiyasu, Arsenal have a very, very good right back who can come in and allow Ben White to have a little bit of a breather. And again, then you could bring him back in for the Manchester City game on Wednesday night. So it wouldn't surprise me if we see a couple of changes. But Trossard, for me, it just feels like this is his time to have an opportunity to shine for the first time in the Premier League in terms of a starting spot. But let me know what you guys think about anything you've seen in the video so far. How happy are you about Gabriel Jesus being back in and around things at Arsenal? And what do you think Mikel Arteta should do on Saturday against Brentford? Who should be in that starting 11 at 3 PM? Do you think Trossard? Let me know, as always, in the comments below. Coastal elsewhere, good result for Arsenal yesterday at Old Trafford. United 2, Leeds 2. Could have been better. Leeds were 2-0 up in that game in the second half. United fought back. Rashford and who was it? Sancho, wasn't it? Jadon Sancho scoring the goals. Good for me because I double captained Marcus Rashford in Fantasy League this week and got me 40 points, which was nice. And yeah, but very happy that Manchester United didn't come back and get the third goal and get the win. Good to see Jadon Sancho back scoring as well. He's had a very difficult time. Player I very much like, Jadon Sancho, so good to see him scoring again. But fantastic result for Leeds. Could have been better, obviously, but I'm sure they'll take a 2-2 at Old Trafford, and that does Arsenal a big favour. A win for United was seen and draw level with Manchester City, 5 points behind Arsenal, but instead they didn't take advantage of that. So now United are third, 7 points behind Arsenal, but they've played 2 games more, so that is a good result. Results have certainly gone Arsenal's way, you would say, since that defeat at Everton, with United dropping points last night, and then Man City obviously losing at Tottenham as well. So Arsenal hopefully can take advantage of that. this weekend. Zinchenko, Player of the Month. Congratulations, Alexander Zinchenko. Thought that was very much deserved. I said it when the nominations came out. Obviously, he hadn't scored the goals of the likes of Nketiah had scored, or people like that. But I just thought his performances, particularly in the wins at Tottenham and against Manchester United, was so good that he deserved it. I mean, he's been a fantastic signing, Zinchenko. It's been a shame that he's missed quite a bit of the season to injury, but when he does play, you can see what an important player he is, what he brings to the team on the pitch, but off it as well. He's a real leader. I think that spirit that he's got, that winning mentality that he's got, that you can see so evident in the sort of passionate displays he puts on the pitch. Maybe gets a little bit carried away. He probably did. He got sucked in by Neil Maupay a little bit at the end of the Everton game. Not surprising, because Maupay was just being an absolute idiot. But you know, he's got previous to that, and sometimes you just got to try and ignore it and get on with the game, because instead Zinchenko got involved. There ended up being a bit of a brawl and all that, and it just wasted time. It played into Everton's hands. So maybe you got to temper that down a little bit if you're Zinchenko and you kind of know what it takes to get over the line and win these championships. But still been a fantastic signing, absolute bargain. I bet you Manchester City fans, or a lot of Manchester City fans, will be kicking themselves that their club let him go. Certainly surprises me that they allowed Arsenal to sign him, but their loss is absolutely Arsenal's game, and I think he 100% deserved that Player of the Month award, and I think he's going to have a really big part to play over the coming weeks, especially on Wednesday night in that game against Manchester City, which is very difficult not to look at and put all the focus on that game because it's so massive. But of course there is a big game against Brentford to come before that, and then all attention will turn to that. The first meeting in the league this season between the two sides. If Arsenal can win that, what a massive step towards the title they would take if they could beat Manchester City next week. But we'll talk about that after the game against Brentford. Let's get that one out of the way, shall we, before we start focusing on City. And that's about it. Congratulations, Arsenal women, getting through to the Continental Cup final yesterday with a hard-earned 1-0 win against Man City, going to extra time. Of course, Arsenal women at the moment struggling a little bit for goals. Drew a blank at the weekend in the league. Got one eventually in extra time yesterday. No surprise with Beth Mead and Miedemar both out with those cruciate knee ligaments. But they found a way to win yesterday and are into the final, knocking out the holders in the process. So congratulations to them. Alright, anything you've seen in this video, please do let me know in the comments below. If you agree with me, disagree with me, or any sort of Arsenal opinion you want to share, do that. Hit me up in the comments below. I will be at London Colney tomorrow, Mikel Arteta's press conference. Ahead of that game against Brentford, we'll get the very latest team news from him, I'm sure. Well, maybe we'll. It'll probably do his usual stuff. Not expecting Smith Rowe to be fit, but we'll wait and see, get final confirmation that perhaps as he's trying to get himself back fit. But other than that, it's probably going to be the same sort of squad that we saw against Everton last week. But be at Colney tomorrow, so keep your eyes peeled for all the usual stuff from Mikel Arteta's press conference. Until then, have a very good day, everyone. I'll speak to you soon.